It is 6:30. Members of council are assembled. Councillor Halpin is attending via Zoom. However, is having some issues with his video, but it is in attendance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. Then we'll call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Welcome all the members of the public who are with us in the gallery this evening and everyone joining us via the live stream, and welcome all committee members. Good to have everybody here. Second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and the deputy mayor has that this evening. The deputy mayor.
Thank you. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you. So now we're on to disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. We do have one open forum request, and it is from Kelly Ferris, who wants to speak to us about regular council agenda item 6.3, which is the Community Services, Parks and Recreation Report regarding the North Shore Railroad proposal. So Ms. Ferris, come on up. We have 3 minutes allocated for open forum delegations. So the floor is yours when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff for allowing us to come and introduce ourselves. My name is Kelly Ferris, as you just said. I am a permanent resident of Saugeen Shores. After the last council meeting, a group of us got together on someone's deck in my neighborhood, which is the North Shore Park neighborhood. And out of our little back deck meeting, our founding group called the Friends of North Shore Park emerged. We through word of mouth, we have about 20 people, and I know it's kind of small, but our intention is to actually grow that as well. We come to you because it's our intent to try to raise community awareness, in particular taxpayer awareness, and to obtain community involvement in our neighborhood, in the community, about the North Shore Park and the future of North Shore Park. We hope you agree with us. We've read some information, and think you do, about the rehabilitation of the North Shore Park and the stabilization of the shoreline and the precedence that must take over any proposed development. We appreciate that we can't, after the fact, run any interference in decisions that are made, and it may be too late. So we think it's really important that we begin now to make sure that we have really meaningful public consultations on this matter, because it will be too late once the trees have regrown and things have been put up. In July of 2022, the initial presentation for reestablishing and reintroducing the train included a couple buildings, which were a roundhouse, a water tower, and a train station. And since then, it seems to the newest proposal has really blossomed and mushroomed a little bit larger than that, and now includes a couple other buildings, specifically a freight shed, a golf course, a charcuterie and winery park. And we figure, and in talking to Scott too, that it takes up about 1/3 of the open space at the park. We appreciate that the proponent can't donate this and his endeavor of the steam train to the town of Saugeen Shores, but we want to really make sure that the development and the concerns we have around the development are concerning about the appropriateness for the park, and a park that's been, we think, a safe space, a public space, a free space, one for reflection and relaxation, where we've taken our children, our grandchildren, we use the splash pad, the playground, and we really want to make sure we have meaningful conversations about the future. So we look forward to increasing the public involvement, to work with the proponent and staff and council if that's how it should work, and revitalize the North Shore Park for the benefit of both residents and for the visitors who come here. We want to work with you to build a better future for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the open forum then, and we're on to delegations, and we have one delegation this evening, and that's from Jennifer Stevens, who's here from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority to talk about programs and services. So Ms. Stevens, come on up, the floor is yours. Council's allocated 10 minutes for our delegations, so the floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you very much. To you, Mayor Charbonneau, and to Council for the opportunity to speak to you today. I am going to speak to you about the programs and services we offer at Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, but I will also be speaking to you about some changes that have happened in regulation, which will affect how we interact with the town of Saugeen Shores with respect to our programs and services. Next slide, please. With respect to how you understand the Conservation Authority, the first thing that you have to understand is what is a watershed. So in order to understand a watershed, you have to understand that water flows downstream. Essentially, a watershed is simply a catchment area. So when water falls or rain falls, it either infiltrates into the ground, it evaporates, or it runs off. Therefore, what happens on your property might affect your neighbors or vice versa. Next slide, please. So the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority is one of 36 conservation authorities across the province under the umbrella organization of Conservation Ontario. The headwaters are at the Osprey wetlands to the east of the Conservation Authority, and the river runs west into Lake Huron. There are 15 participating municipalities. We're the 5th largest geographic conservation area or authority at 4,700 square kilometers, and we have 118 kilometers of shoreline. Next slide, please. So in terms of regulations, there have been several changes over the last 2 years. Starting at the left, there have been changes to regulations such that there is now a regulation dictating mandatory programs and services, which outlined a need for a transition plan as well as an inventory of programs and services, which needed to be submitted to the province in February of last year. As well as there's a new regulation for our conservation areas, such that there will be a consistent regulation across the province. As well, in the middle, new regulation with respect to budget and apportionment was released in 2022, such that our budget will now be required to be split up so that it is now going to be visible by a mandatory program and service and then non-mandatory program and service. There are also information requirements, regulations, as well as user fee regulations. And then most recently at the tail end of 2022, the More Homes Built Faster Act has made it such that there are 2 new regulations with respect to how the conservation authorities will be impacted. Next slide, please. So with respect to mandatory programs and services, we have the flood and erosion control prevention program. And that program has 4 different areas. First of all, they fall into non-structural approaches, the regulation of development in the floodplain, flood forecasting and warning, water infrastructure maintenance and inspection, and emergency planning. And these are essentially keeping people away from the water. Now, you'll note that water infrastructure maintenance and inspection falls into that grouping. Well, that is essentially structural approaches which are keeping water away from people. Collectively across the province, we manage over $3.8 billion worth of flood control and prevention infrastructure, and we protect lives and prevent more than $150 million per year in flood damages and disruption. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority has approximately 27 different structural approaches to protect people and property from flooding. Next slide, please. In terms of our flood warning program, which of course is a mandatory program, we have several stream gauges which measure the hydrology or water levels across our watershed. And the intent of these water level gauges is to relay routine information concerning the watershed river conditions to selected agencies and municipal officials. But secondly, and more importantly, they are a rapid advance warning and technical support system to concerned officials and to citizens whose lives and properties may be endangered by floodwaters. And essentially, this rapid advance warning system allows us to, next slide, please, to put forward flood warning messages that are either yellow, orange, or red, which indicates these watershed conditions, whether or not there's high runoff potential that could lead to flooding, which is a watershed condition statement, or whether or not there's generalized flooding throughout of the watershed or in specific municipalities, which is a flood watch, or if there is a flood warning message that is or has to be indicated, which is where there is flooding occurring or about to occur, which is typically in only a specific area of the watershed. Most recently, we issued flood warning for 3 different municipalities only 2 weeks ago. Next slide, please. We also are responsible for the regulation of development in the floodplain. Specifically, we have a regulation referred to as 16906. That particular regulation is specific to Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. However, the regulation will be updated such that there will be a standard regulation across the province, and it is the regulation of development interference with wetlands and alterations to shorelines and watercourses. And we are responsible for issuing permits and regulating the enforcement of that particular regulation. We are also responsible for Planning Act applications and reviewing other applications such as municipal drains and environmental assessments. In 2022, we reviewed between 1,700 and 2,000 applications for planning and permits, and that generally is consistent on an annual basis. Collectively across the province, each conservation authority contributes to approximately 32,000 permit reviews annually. Next slide, please. We also have a delegated responsibility through the provincial government for provincial interests, which are specific to natural hazards, which are flooding and erosion. And that requires Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority to review and provide comments on official documents such as official plans and comprehensive zoning bylaws, and ensuring that those documents are consistent with natural hazard policies of the provincial policy statement. Next slide, please. In addition, through Justice O'Connor's report or inquiry, he put forward that the best way to manage drinking water was, and to protect drinking water, was on a watershed basis. Therefore, the conservation authorities became source protection authorities and are thus the way that drinking water source protection plans have been developed across the province. There are 38 drinking water source protection plans. There is one for the Grey Sauble, Saugeen Valley, and Northern Bruce Peninsula source protection region. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority has the responsibility to ensure that policies in that source protection plan are implemented. We have implemented 100% of the drinking water threat policies in that plan, and 153 risk management plans are currently in place throughout the source protection region, and those plans were put in place because there were no existing means by which to protect drinking water sources and to alleviate those threats. 4 of those risk management plans are within the town of Saugeen Shores. Next slide, please. The conservation of land is also a mandatory program and service. Collectively, conservation authorities are the second largest landowner in Ontario. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority has 153 different properties in 86 different groupings. We maintain 54 kilometers of recreational trails. And our role is to ensure that the conservation of land is maintained on our conservation areas and on the lands that we own and maintain. Next slide, please.
We have passed over 10 minutes there, so if you could wrap it up. Council does have your presentation, so
Okay,
you just get to the asks maybe, and then we can take questions or comments from members.
okay, certainly. All right, in terms of, there is forestry and stewardship. Forestry programs are related to our forested properties is a mandatory program and service. Stewardship is not a mandatory program and service. And next slide, please. With relation to our water quality programs, the majority of our programs are related to mandatory programs and services. The biology, are in particular the biomonitoring, which is on one of the slides that is in your presentation, is a non-mandatory program and service. And any of the provincial monitoring, we have 2 provincial monitoring networks, provincial water quality monitoring network, the provincial groundwater monitoring networks. Those are mandatory programs and services that we take part in. So I'll bring you to the second last page, if you wouldn't mind going ahead. Thank you. Couple more slides. Right there. So the town, just one back. Thank you very much. To the budget. Our budget is $6 million for 2023. For the town of Saugeen Shores, the budget is $435,000. And that it's attributed to the general levy programs. So the green slice of the pie, that is where those funds come from. And next slide, please. And so for us to continue our non-mandatory programs and services, which essentially will be some stewardship programming, as well as some water quality monitoring outside of the provincial water quality monitoring network, we are required to enter into an agreement with each of our municipalities to continue those programs. Those agreements need to be in place by January the 1st, 2024. And therefore we will be approaching the town with an agreement to enter into a negotiation to continue those services. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stevens. Are there questions or comments from members? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks, Jennifer, for the presentation. With regards to the source water protection plan, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. A large portion of our population, and certainly the ward that I represent, live in a rural setting where they're on wells for their drinking water. The source water protection plan in no way protects those water sources. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right.
Yes, the source protection plan protects municipal sources of drinking water.
So just where towns draw their water from.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
However, if a municipality was interested in bringing together and elevating a number of collective private wells, and through a council resolution, there is that possibility of doing so.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, further comments or questions from members? See, I'm just wondering, so when the you're going to be bringing forward an agreement, and the agreement will include a list of optional or non-mandatory programs and services that the Conservation Authority provides. Are you imagining, or is the authority imagining that it will be an a la carte list for all of the councils in the region to select which programs and services it will take or which it won't take? Or is it one deal for everybody and everybody, it's sort of a take it or leave it kind of deal? Like how would you, like there are what 14, 15 municipalities involved in the Conservation Authority. I can't recall, it's been a few years, but quite a few municipalities. How will that be negotiated and then result in something that's actually workable on the authority's end?
Well, accumulated out of that $6 million, approximately $200,000 is attributed to non-mandatory programs and services, which is relatively a drop in the bucket compared to other conservation authorities. So what we're hoping is that because we are focusing on stewardship activities, which are essentially ensuring that our water quality is going to be good, and targeting specific locations to improve our water quality, and also ensuring that we have specific water quality stations in locations that are strategic. We're hoping that most of the municipalities will see the best judgment in keeping going with those non-mandatory programs and services.
Okay, so I missed that bit as you wrapped up. So essentially, the authority's position is all of the services it's providing, apart from a very small number, are mandatory services up by the provincial definition.
No, we have to continue to separate our programs into mandatory and non-mandatory. The authority's position is that there are non-mandatory programs. And of course, we are going to be bringing those forward as non-mandatory programs. And quite frankly, engaging with our municipalities it'll be just to their discretion whether or not they choose to sign on.
But we're only talking $200,000 worth of programs,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay. So, Councillor Stack, did you have a comment? I see your hand up there.
There's two quick questions. So the first is, and then we've sort of been touching on it, but can you just quickly walk me through for my own edification, how we determine where to locate water surface monitoring or surface water monitoring? And then how many risk management plans for drinking water source projections we have in Saugeen Falls?
I responded to your email. So there was four risk management plans in the town of Saugeen Shores. And those have already been developed and they are renewed on a 5-year basis. So that's that question. Okay. And then in terms of the water quality monitoring sites, they're chosen strategically. Typically, we don't have a lot of money to be doing monitoring all along a tributary, for example. So what we want to do is take a snapshot at the end of what is going into, for example, the main branch of the Saugeen River. So we want to get a water quality station at the outlet of that particular tributary before it goes into the Saugeen River.
Okay, then. Oh, Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Jennifer, for the presentation. I know when I was on the board, one of the areas that impressed me most was education. And I'm wondering how what's going to be happening with those wonderful programs.
We are no longer going to be carrying out education. It's a non-mandatory program and service. And because of the amount of education that we need to do about our mandatory programs and services, we've chosen no longer to carry that out.
Well, that's sad to hear. A lot of the kids in school programs are really going to be missing out.
We've had to be very, very selective.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Ms. Stevens there. How many campgrounds does the SPCA operate, Jennifer?
Pardon me?
How many campgrounds does the SPCA operate?
We have 3 campgrounds that we operate for profit, and we have 1 campground that is essentially a stop over on the Saugeen River.
And are they mandatory program? Mining campground?
They are not mandatory programs, but because they are essentially revenue neutral, they do not fit into the.
Yeah, I served on the board for a few years too, and I would suggest that they take an enormous amount of staff time to run those campgrounds. And I really think that SBCA, Mr. Mayor, should take a really long look of the operation of those campgrounds, and if they're not making a significant amount of dollars, then I'm not sure why we're in the business. We keep adding, we've added staff over the years of contributions, 450 grand. And I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, with those list of services that are mandatory, non-mandatory, that the Conservation Authority takes a serious look at the operation of those campgrounds. If we're not making a lot of money, then I think from a management perspective, I think take a long look at them. I hope that's being considered by FCCF.
Okay, anything further? No savings, so thanks very much for your time this evening, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we are on to, reports of municipal officers and committees. And we have two reports there this evening, and the first one is a general government report and a staff report on Innovation Park marketing materials and the marketing plan. And oh, there she is. We have the economic development officer joining us online, the economic development officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This report includes a general overview of the marketing plan designed in order to promote the 17 lots located in the Innovation Park on Concession 6 for sale. The plan is a series of timed promotional initiatives to reach the target audience and highlight the unique opportunity available. The marketing efforts include supporting online and print materials, all available under the Innovation Park heading on the town's website. And also included in this report for reference is a timeline of the development of the Innovation Park, starting with its purchase in 2018. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions regarding the report or the attached marketing plan.
Thank you. So there is a recommendation that council receive the Innovation Park marketing materials and marketing plan report for information. Are there questions or comments from members? Councillor Stack.
Hi, just two quick, or they're probably not quick questions, but I'll try. So the first is, are we still focused on companies that will create a product or a service? Specifically, are we looking to focus on companies that will generate sort of good paying jobs for residents? So that's question one. I'll let you answer that one.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Stack. Yes, the focus area of the Innovation Park is really to attract businesses located in the clean energy industry. So what we mean when we say that is any business who is, in clean energy, hydrogen, nuclear, solar, and even as it relates to research and technology. I even think about like isotopes and the support businesses required to deliver that service. And so those jobs are, of course, well-paying jobs. And part of the goal of the Innovation Park is to create those jobs. So job creation is a major function of the Innovation Park, as well as attracting those businesses in order to capitalize on our already. Did you lose audio? I can't.
Hi there. We just lost hydro, but I will get the audio back on. Just a moment, please.
Can council hear me?
Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I
Okay,
can't
just
hear
a moment. I'll
council.
get the audio back on.
Any luck, Sarah?
Hi there. We are still live and we're just getting the audio back up. Hi, Heather. I think we are good to go.
Am I back? Can you hear me now, Sarah?
I can. I may have the mayor double check that we can hear. Councillor Davinsky is giving the head nod.
Hey, Heather, can you hear me now?
I can certainly hear you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
We're just going to get ourselves back together here. Give us 2 seconds and then we'll start again. Okay. All right, everybody, if we can
Sounds
get ready
good.
to take our seats here, we'll hopefully Heather remembers where she left off when the power went out and we can get started again. Yeah, a couple people coming in yet. Okay, Heather, sorry about that. Carry on.
I'm not sure where I lost all of you, but to summarize, yes, the two main functions of the Innovation Park are to generate well-paying jobs in the clean energy industry, and we have a target market that we are trying to attract for that business park.
Thanks. Two more questions. The second one's going to be, I don't know how quick it'll be as well, but can you just talk to me a little bit about what we're doing, recognizing there's going to be probably an emphasis on the trades, like what we're doing in recognition of the need for trades and sort of recognizing that I think we have a bit of a shortage in the province as a whole.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councillor Sack, and through you, Mr. Mayor. There's a couple of things around this that I'd like to point out before I get into that question. And you are 100% correct that we do have a labor shortage, specifically in trades right across the province. In Saugeen Shores, we're very lucky. The construction industry is a key economic driver for us. In terms of the number of businesses, we have about 127 businesses in that industry, which ranks about number 3 in terms of volume of businesses. And then in addition to that, we have a really strong labor force as well. It's actually in number 4. So in the top 6 of labor force is those working in the construction industry. Having said that, we are a rapidly growing community and we realize that we do need more and more trades as we grow. We have a lot of partners that we work with in order to facilitate attracting people in the trades, getting more youth into trades. Specifically, we work with the County of Bruce closely on that. There's also work being done at Georgian College, at the 4 County Labor Market, and some other smaller organizations and local grassroots groups trying to get kids more interested in that. So we keep a close eye on it. We do what we can to support those that are making gains in those areas, recognizing that we're going to need more and more as we grow.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Further comments or questions from members? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, the materials you left in our mailboxes look great. I had a couple of questions, Heather. On the drawing that shows the lot layout, there's 3 lots that are colored gray. Could you please indicate to us what the intention long-term is for those 3 areas? And I have a couple more. Thank you.
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there are 3 gray areas in that lotting map. The one at the bottom left-hand corner requires further archaeological assessment in order to be developed. And the one at the very top, it's the same. And the one just to the left of that top one is earmarked as the stormwater management pond for the park.
Okay, so is there any connection to Mill Creek that will enable passage, like public passage from this road that would take them back to potentially in the future maybe a trail network or a restful sitting area close to the creek? Like there's nothing here that is putting public access from the road that we're building back to the creek. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's nothing showing yet. We don't have set firm plans, but we always have intended to connect the trail system up to the innovation park. And maybe, I don't know if the Director of Community Services is on the line, if she wanted to speak a little bit more to that, but.
Sure, yeah, we can turn it over to the director.
Thank you for that. And through you, Mr. Mayor, Heather is correct, is that through our master plan and trails planning through Lamont Sports Park, is that the Innovation Park is a consideration for future trails planning.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask, we have a current business park that's been around for a while, and we really just kind of drew some lines on a map and people moved in. Is there an intention to require or include in the construction of the road and the divisions of land for the lots, any kind of streetscape planning to make it look like good? Because I think we can set an example for the community in terms of just the way something new can look. Is Heather, is the intention to, kind of, I don't know, jazz it up a bit? I don't know if sidewalks fit into this kind of situation, but certainly, the current business park, we didn't really like add trees anywhere close to the road or anything like that. Is there a streetscape idea starting to percolate related to this new road?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. Right now, we don't have any formal plans in place of aesthetics or what it should look like, but I'm happy to talk to Development Services about that, see if there's something that we can do in order to meet those aesthetic goals.
I think it would go a long way to setting a standard, and that would be a good thing. I also wanted to ask if at some point, I noticed it says,
Could we just, because before you move on to another question, as you're doing, I think maybe the directors
oh, sorry.
down there might want to just speak to that question, the
Sorry.
director.
Yeah, thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Mayor, not as much to the aesthetics part of it, but I did want to just highlight is that there is a paved shoulder included in the specifications of that work from the entranceway all the way down to Highway 21.
On both sides or just one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe on only one side, but I'll have to verify.
That's a good addition. On the materials that we got, there's a comment that says that the Innovation Park will be competitively priced per acre. At some point, will council receive an indication of the level of public investment to create this? I know that somewhere I read about market values coming into play, and the price of the land might fluctuate depending upon the timing and that sort of thing, but we will at some point get an accounting of all of the public investment that goes into creating this. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can work on that. And just to highlight to your point, the market value. So we recognize that the market will fluctuate, and depending on when the lots sell, the price may vary. We intend to bring each purchase agreement to council for review, so you'll see the price per acre in each individual purchase agreement. When we did the MHPC report in 2021, the market value at that time was between $150,000 and $175,000 per acre. We did reach out to that same real estate firm in November of 2022 to see if the market had changed. And we were told that we're now looking at the higher end of about $175,000 per acre. So that is the rough estimate of what we're going on right now, recognizing that might go up slightly as we move forward.
And my final comment is there's a little boy who lives across the street from all of this who has told me almost every day what's going on. So please know that there's some eyes on the project already, and he's 10 years old, and he thinks it's great that it's all happening in his road. Thank you.
The deputy mayor has informants everywhere. The vice deputy mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Heather. I just wondering, could you remind me, all of council, I think I know the answer, but the type of businesses that we're trying to attract into Innovation Park, and obviously it's innovative type of businesses. I was approached by a local business operator that's willing to pay that dollar to move their business out there, storage facility, basically a good sized business. And basically we're told no. And I think no, because we're trying to be consistent with the types of innovative type business that are going to be attracted at that park. Is that, I think we approved those terms of reference maybe a year ago as council, I believe we did. So I was part of that decision. But when you get requested from a business owner that, gee, I want to be there. So I guess the question is, just refresh my memory, what types of, it's called Innovation Park, so types of business we're trying to attract. And secondly, Mr. Mayor, just from a timing perspective, how long do we wait? We got 17 lots. We're going to invest $4 or $5 million in that site, and there's some return. There will be, but how long do we wait if we don't get those quote innovative type businesses? At what point do we say, we need to open up a few of those lots for other types of business? So just refresh my memory. Who are we trying to attract?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So our primary focus for the Innovation Park is to attract businesses that are working in the clean energy space. So when we say clean energy, that doesn't just include nuclear, but of course it does. There's also hydrogen, solar. We're looking at research, technology, how businesses support the isotope network. And there is a host of appropriate uses listed in the zoning bylaw for the park. So I have some of them here. I'll just list a few off just for your reference. So in addition to those businesses that I've listed, there's also, facilities of education, training, and skills development. There's research and development uses, data processing, offices, business and activities associated with green technology, renewable energy, businesses and activities supportive of the nuclear service industry, businesses of incubator uses, public utilities, and industry non-effluent producing. So those are some of the uses permitted in the zoning bylaw. So those are kind of the industries that we're attracting. And then to your second question regarding timing, recognizing that it does take some time to fill a business park. It's not going to fill itself overnight. This is going to be a process. We're starting right now with our marketing efforts to get the word out. The park should be finished its construction by the end of September. But recognizing that even site plan development and construction takes some time. So we have a long-term plan to fill the park. And it will be up to council to monitor that progress and choose the best path forward.
Just as follow-up, Mr. Mayor, and Heather, I think that's commendable. And if we could fill those 17 lots with those types of businesses, I think that's wonderful. And with you doing all the recruitment and making things happen, I'm sure, sure we'll get there. I just think we have to have a backup plan as well. If it doesn't succeed in that manner, then we take a look, at recouping our costs. So, Heather, just the last question, Mr. Mayor. Have you had some early leads, Heather?
Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Mayor. I was able to attend the Canadian Nuclear Association conference where I met with a lot of people in the nuclear industry. And of course, I was talking about this amazing new innovation park that we have coming online. And the feedback that I got about the concept was very positive. And a lot of people saying that, they want to be kept abreast of the progress and kept in the loop because they're interested in learning more. So I found that told me that we're on the right track and that we're going to be able to find those tenants that we're looking for.
And just as my Parks and Recreation hat on, but the strides in you, I think it'd be just wonderful to have a trail system around the entire innovation park and around the entire Vermont Sports Park one day. That might take 5 or 10 years, but what a wonderful trail system that and it's going to be a great new service, Mr. Mayor, to our community innovation park. So great work, Heather, and thanks for your presentation. Keep up the fine work.
Thank you. Are there further comments or questions from members? Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I bring this up begrudgingly, but when I was reading all the notes to this, there's one in the Innovation Park overview, Heather, by the way, great presentation and so on. And it says within 2 hours of major markets in both Canada and the US, all easily accessed by major highways. I'll give you the Canada one, it's a bit of a stretch, but I'll give you the Canada one. The American one, though, there's no way we're within 2 hours of the US. And I guess the only reason I bring this up is if somebody reads that and says that's perfect for my business, and then comes and realizes, whoops, it's longer than that, and that adds cost and so on. I don't know what the answer is, Heather. Can you help me out here?
Thank you for that. And through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for pointing that out. I will definitely take that under advisement. I will play devil's advocate a little bit and note that we do have an international airport located 30 minutes from us, just north. It's not giant, but you could get to a American city in less than 2 hours.
I was hoping you'd say that. Thank you.
She's a marketer, isn't she? She knows what she's doing. Are there further comments or questions? I just want to say, Heather, I've had the opportunity to sort of watch Heather closely as she's been selling this park and working with folks to try to get people into the innovation park, and she just does tremendous work. She has been working so hard at this project on behalf of the municipality and doing tremendous work. So thank you so much, Heather. And your report here and the products you're beginning to generate to market this opportunity, I think really reflect well on the municipality, reflect well on the opportunity. And I think you're definitely going to, we are going to be successful at getting some great businesses in here. I did just want to make a comment about the notion of, certain businesses, the park is designed for the type of businesses that Heather has referenced there. Some businesses won't fit that rubric, but that does not mean the town of Saugeen Shores is not interested in those types of businesses. We've created this particular park to do particular things, right? And the municipality, it's public land. And what we want to do with public land is leverage it up to do the most good for the people that we possibly can do with it, right? Employment, opportunity for the people of our community to make life better for the people of our community. That's I think, at least my view of what our obligation is with our own lands. But it's also our obligation to create opportunities elsewhere in the community for things like storage facilities and other types of light industry or commercial uses. We know we need to have a well-balanced planning regime in place to accommodate a whole range of uses. And so we do that through the planning process, our zoning bylaw, official plan. We're, sort of in a rolling process of reviewing those things, and this council and future councils will have the opportunity to make sure those opportunities to exist. I just didn't want folks to be left with the impression that somehow because the innovation park isn't open to just any type of business, that those type of businesses aren't welcome in Saugeen Shores. In fact, we really encourage those types of businesses to be here. And finally, I would say that this just really is a huge strategic opportunity for the municipality. I think we all need to look at it that way. You know, businesses that are looking at our region to locate have options, right? There are lots of places throughout Grey Bruce and Huron where they could locate and be in proximity to Bruce Power, be in proximity to the types of opportunities that will have them thinking about our region. So we're in a competitive situation, and municipalities, you know, have to position ourselves to be competitive, have to use our lands wisely to try to attract those opportunities to our community. So this, I think we should look at this as an opportunity to, you know, be aggressive and to try to attract the kinds of businesses that we want to have in our community, the kinds of businesses that will employ people in our community. And I really think there are tremendous opportunities on our doorstep, whether it be isotopes, whether it be the possibility of new build nuclear. These things are actively being discussed. There are opportunities that exist right now or will exist relatively soon. And Saugeen Shores is in a great position with this innovation park to get the folks who are going to be working on those projects, working here in Saugeen Shores, get those types of innovative businesses happening here. And that builds out our economy, our local economy, so it is resilient, so that it is mixed and diverse and broader, so that, you know, we can be more than a one industry or two industry town. You know, we're sort of we're agriculture, we're tourism, we're nuclear. We could be more. And if we were, that would create longevity and opportunities for not only the people who live here now, but our kids and our grandkids. And that's the kind of things that, you know, this council and the municipality ought to be aiming for. So I think it's a great project. Thank you so much for your work on it, Heather, and keep us up to date. I know you're going to have lots of success. So you heard a recommendation there. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Okay, now we're on to 8.3 infrastructure and development, and we have a staff report update to animal control bylaw 36/2004 to review dog beaches, and we'll start with the Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to briefly introduce the report before I turn it over to our Manager of Building Services, Josh Plants. We're also joined this evening by our Manager of Parks, Frank Burrows. The report that we have and the attached map are the result of teamwork with the bylaw and community services staff. And it's a base for public input, and it's for information this evening. We're not looking for a decision or a position to be taken on the material. It's an opportunity for council to ask questions of the team and offer any comments for our consideration as we go forward into the asking the public for their input. So with that, you know, we'll turn it over to Mr. Potts.
Thanks, Mark. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm here to get the information report for the possibility of opening more waterfront to dogs. So currently we allow dogs from October to May on all the beaches. There are also areas of
Josh, would you just come a little closer to your mic so folks online can hear you?
There are also areas north of the Saugeen River in Southampton that allow dogs, and also from the harbor to concession 10 in Port Elgin. So if the attached map, those areas are included. So, but with input from the Parks Department, we have created areas that could become dog friendly, and on that attached map, those are the ones with orange. I will mention that if this were to go through, the dogs would still be required to be leashed, and we would still have to do post-pooping to all dogs. With coming up with a decision of what areas we would like to open up, we looked at the high-use recreational beaches, and we decided to keep those free from dogs. Those are the areas in red on the map. And we also wanted obvious landmarks to note where the areas start and end. So the next step that we have is we are going to engage the public. We are hoping to open up comment on May 8th to a website. We'll keep that open for 2 weeks, and then we will compile the data and bring back a report on our findings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there is a recommendation that council receive this update to Animal Control Bylaw 36/2004 to review dog beaches report for information. And it's just worth repeating. Staff's brought this set of ideas to us this evening. It's here for us to have some initial input and discussion, but it's really here to be released to the public to hear what they think about it so that we can get their feedback and have probably a more in-depth conversation later on once we've heard from the public. So there you go. So questions or comments, Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks, Josh, for the work on this. A question and then following that, a comment. When I look at the map, you're proposing, like, initially, I guess, what we had asked for, I think we had a delegation to council initially that sparked this conversation some months ago, or maybe late last year. Can't remember that far back, but it was asking for a place that was better than what is now the Dog Beach, which is that coarse pebble beach by the boat launch. And then we've come back with this, and this adds quite a few other options that would be open to dogs. Are you proposing that all of those areas that I think are in orange would be open for people to bring their dogs to throughout the year? That's the question.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
That's
we
correct.
would hope that they would go obviously on a leash, but in those areas.
Right. And that's wonderful. I think that's a lot more than what dog owners are asking for. I mean, everybody likes to have one that they can walk to, I suppose, and that's certainly one that fits the bill in that regard. As a dog owner myself, I know my dog, and I know most dogs in the hot weather like to go down and splash in the water and cool off, and like anybody does. And the worst thing that I could imagine ever happening would be for my dog or somebody else's dog to have a negative interaction with a member of the public. You know, worst case being with a child or somebody getting bit or something like that. And I believe that the vast majority of dog owners are responsible in that manner, and they would do their utmost to keep that from happening. What I would like to propose as a suggestion is when you open up some of these areas, that you maybe put a time limit on them. And I think maybe like prior to 10 a.m. and maybe after 7 p.m. And during the day, restrict it to no dogs, because I mean, that's the time of day between 10 and say after supper, when people are going to be out there doing beach stuff, you know, sunbathing or playing on the beach, having their children or grandchildren or whatever the case may be. And certainly I know my dog does not like to go out in the hot sun. There's a phrase about mad dogs and Englishmen in the hot day sun, but I'm refraining as much as I can about quoting things these days. So I would suggest that maybe you consider that for the majority of these areas. If not, you know, if you want to keep some areas, of course, like the Pebble Beach and maybe the more secluded areas open all day long. But I think a time restriction to the mornings and the evenings. I mean, that's when people walk the dogs anyway, usually in the mornings and the afternoons before it gets hot, and then after supper. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you.
And I think staff will take any suggestions council makes tonight, include them in the public comments, and help to have that inform their recommendations later. So I have quite a list. I got Grace, then Stack, then Helpin, then the deputy mayor. So Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Josh and Frank, for your work on this. I went back and read the waterfront master plan, which has a section devoted to just dogs on beaches. And although the plan is 10 years old, there's a lot there that I think still applies. And one of the things that resonates with me is the idea of striving for balance, restricting the rights of all waterfront users, but trying to provide some places for dog owners and their families to enjoy the waterfront. I know that your report says you considered the idea of time limits and rejected that because you thought it would be more difficult to monitor in terms of a bylaw officer, since I think it may actually be easier to monitor because you wouldn't have to have, I mean, yes, there could always be violators outside of those time limits, but it might help a little bit, just something to consider. And I also know that as with Councillor Mayette, one of the areas that we've had complaints with dog owners indicating that those hard rocky beaches are difficult or hard for their paws and painful. I would say just my own feeling about this is that I don't think that South Street Beach is an appropriate location. It increasingly in the last couple of years, 5 years or so, it's become one of the most popular beaches in Southampton. A lot of young families go there. So I have concerns about that. I also have a big concern about the Miramichi Bay stretch. That's one of the most important locations for wild birds in our area. And I fear that year-round dog use could change that. Just this year, just a couple of the bird species that are regularly observed, not just this year, but the great blue heron. Some of you may have seen an amazing picture on Facebook this week of the great blue heron eating a fish. Great egrets, killdeer, bald eagles, osprey, the swans that we all love to see. And last year, the rare American white pelican made a visit, and it's reported in Goderich again. I've also been told that the marshland in that area is a breeding area, nesting area for snapping turtles and painted turtles. And with snapping turtles, I'm not an expert on this, but that could possibly pose a danger if dogs are running there, and it could pose a danger to the dog. Anyway, I'm really happy that you're going to be doing an extensive public consultation, and I urge everyone who is interested and concerned to please participate in that. And I'm sure that our staff will be communicating all of that specific information about how to do that. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Stack.
Thank you. So just a quick comment, and it's really just to echo some feedback I have from some residents who emailed me just this afternoon. So I think it's important to just reflect, and I'll encourage them to respond publicly and look forward to the opportunity for them to do so. Just, I did want to say there's some concerns around people who have fears of dogs. So I'm eager to see what the feedback is and making sure that we address those concerns. And so that we're paying attention to whichever if we opt for the times of the day, so before 8:30 and after 7 p.m. That we make sure that's clear to the folks that have those concerns, and we will need to have a discussion of bylaw enforcement. I think there's a concern around bylaw enforcement in town. It's about the availability, and I know I've had some concerns recently about people on the trails with their dogs off leash. So certainly, I'd like to see if we decide to do this. And that's sort of in line with public opinion, that we do a bit of information to the town about expectations with respect to dogs on leash and compliance with these rules. And if we see a failure to comply, we revisit it. So I do want to make sure people that are afraid of dogs or young children aren't suddenly going to be very concerned about accessing the beach. I think that's worth discussing.
Thank you. So I have Halpin, Huber, then Davinsky. So Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I'll just echo Councillor Grace's comments, because I was actually a coast watcher for the Lake Huron Center for Coastal Conservation, and I monitored that area for a year. And it is a very significant wildlife area. And as that gets more shallow, the fish will also move towards Miramichi Bay now. I just want to say that all the letters, I had half a dozen or more letters already. All of them are just saying this is way too much dog beats, way too much. So I understand the need for more dog beach, but it just seems like the dogs got a lot more beach than the beachers are going to have at this rate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, I'd like to echo also what Councillor Grace and now Councillor Halpin have said. Horseshoe Bay is it's not always particularly accessible, but it is an incredible birding site. And as you then see the lines come up around McNabb Point, I'm interested to know if consideration was given to public access to these locations, because some of them are a little more obvious than others. Certainly the area from the Flag in Southampton, from High Street to the harbor, there's a trail there. There's entry both ends, and it's a nice expanse. That makes sense to me, and it's an interesting beach. It's got some sand, it's got some rocks, it's got some vegetation. To me, that's a good environment for a walk with a dog, and the lake is there too. The one that's closer though to Horseshoe Bay and McNabb Point, I'm not too sure how people would really access it. And I also would echo about South Street, incredibly busy beach. Has our some at the south end of Port Algon as well, and I don't know if we need to disrupt that this year, but certainly there's I think some wiggle room in here to get one or two more spots. And I think the area north of the Flag to the harbor is a good one for Southampton because of the public access. So just as so they get honed down a little bit closer to reality or not reality, public access becomes important. And most people would be walking a dog at times, but in some cases going to the beach, you could imagine people driving. So you need to think about somebody in a car, and along Horseshoe Bay, there's not really parking there. So, some factors like that should come into play. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Josh, for the report. I sense that Josh has given us what I call the Cadillac version. These are all the possibilities, but I think maybe we'll end up with three. The one that we already have in port. I agree with the deputy mayor. As a matter of fact, motel owners came to me and said, could we have a dog beach in Southampton? Because vacationers bring their dogs now. They don't leave them at home or in a kennel. And I thought that north of the Flag to the river would be a good spot. Seems to be. Could there be one in Goebels Grove or in the area? Perhaps, but I'm not as familiar with that area, and we'd have to study it further. To those that have written emails to all of us, I'm sure, remember, this is the time now to send them to the town so that your opinions count. And somewhere down the line, we will find out where we go. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Josh. Josh, if this goes smoothly, could this concept be ready by the summer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the timing will be made when public is going to go to the public. It's going to be there for 2 weeks. So that'll be end of May. That'll give us a bit of.
Gosh, just lean into that.
Sorry,
mic
that'll
there.
give us some time to compile it. So it should come early to mid-June back to council for some. And other comments.
And it's at that time, I assume, Mr. Mayor, we could conceivably make a decision.
Council has well, it takes a bit of time to make a decision, but if we've got a recommendation in June, it's conceivable we could have any changes made in time for the summer season, I think.
Okay, I think it's a great idea to look at this, look at it carefully, and make the right decisions, and share those dog beaches with people. And that may mean the timing in the morning and after early evening. I hope we see a lot of action with this because we could use a couple of more. Thank you.
Thank you, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just, I've had 8 or 10 letters as well. And mostly from residents who are pretty concerned about the scope of the expansion of this idea of where these doggy beaches could happen. And, I've got one email I received just before I walked out the door, and, I'll just quote, Dogs are off leash in many areas, including Woodland Trail, Beaner Bush Trails, the Rail Trail, and very often at the beach already. And that's a fact. And had a resident off of Shipley Trail, a long conversation today, who gets run off his property. Run off his property. Out his side door, and he can't get out of his garage. He can't get out of the laneway because the people coming off Shipley Trail, off leash dogs, run him off his property. That's not real good. And so we've got an enforcement issue, and I know we have only one bylaw enforcement officer, and the difficulty with that is they could park themselves down Shipley Trail for 3 hours and never see a dog, and then they leave and the dog shows up. So it's not an easy situation to resolve with enforcement of dogs off leash. And dogs off leash is a problem, and serious problem in my view. And I think that one bylaw enforcement officer is very difficult to cover geographically an area, town our size. And I really think there needs to be more of a police presence, Mr. Mayor. And I think we've got a wonderful police force, and I know they're busy, but I think the point in time has come where you're driving in your police car and you got to stop at some of those beaches and do targeted enforcement like we do roadside checks for speeders. And I think there's got to be targeted enforcement for dogs on beach and dogs in areas where they're not supposed to be off leash. And so we can hire 3 bylaw enforcement officers. Probably we probably not solve this problem. But so we've got an enforcement issue, and I think we're going too big too quickly. I'm anxious to hear what the public have to say, but I agree with Councilor Grace and our deputy mayor. And South Speed Beach is not the area to expand. I don't think Miramichi Bay Road, that area, the Horseshoe Bay is definitely not a correct area environmentally, wildlife. But there is an area that I think we need to move slowly and perhaps try one area this year. And I've got an area I think the staff should really consider, and this council should consider, and it's at the base of concession 4. I used the beach a little bit, not often with my grandkids, but I do walk the area. And there's a nice little beach down there for a doggy beach. There is. It's a sand beach, and there's lots of parking on both sides of the road. And it's right at the north end of McGregor Point Provincial Park, right at the base of concession 4. Sand beach, sand bottom, won't hurt the paws of the dogs. And we want to try one area. And I think one of the comments, we fence it off, or just sign it. This area is a dog beach, and I could get behind that. I could support that little area down there. I know there are a few people that use it. They're going to probably email me after this meeting. So, oh my God, I use that beach and can't put dogs on there. But to me, that's the area, and we should really take a look at that. 35 Saugeen Beach Road, it just is the wrong area. That parking lot in Minnehaha is full of cars, and that beach, particularly with Global's Grove Beach, no parking now. Heights Grove Beach has really, I live down there, has really gotten busy, a lot busier. And I don't think that's the area at 35 Saugeen Beach Road to allow it. So I think some of these areas can be stricken from the list pretty quickly. I know we have to hear from the public. But Mr. Mayor, I'd like Josh and staff to really think about that area at the base of concession 4. I think would be an ideal spot. And I think we really need to take a look at bylaw enforcement and stop the warnings. The people that are violators are listen. And I hope the dog owners are listening. And they're not all bad dog owners, they're not. But there's a few that are spoiling it for the rest of the dog owners. And I guess I'm pleading with dog owners. And Josh, I think that the off leash, there's only one area you can be off leash with your dog, correct? And that's the off leash dog park. Is there any other areas in town right now, Josh, that we permit dogs to be off leash?
No, you're correct. Off leash dog park or your public residence.
Right. So the people that are using Shipley Trail and on our beaches, off leash dogs, please don't spoil it for the rest of the dog owners, because you're giving yourself a bad name. And it's that handful. It's the case with a lot of things, but I'd really encourage the police to get out this summer, Mr. Mayor, and stop the warnings. I just think we need to ticket people and send a strong message. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Are there further comments members, so this has been a live issue, a hot issue for as long as I've been around, dog beaches. It's always been, and we've ended up where we've ended up today because as a result of a lot of conversation over a long time, essentially a prohibition, at least in the summertime. And so I'm glad we're revisiting it. We got a lot of interest. I know during the election, there was a lot of talk about it and a lot of interest. So it's a good opportunity to look at it again. But I do think that I think we all want to be careful about it. And I have received a lot of correspondence like the rest of you have, and all of it has been negative to the idea at all at this point. So I'm going to be very interested to hear a more fulsome, a more complete input from the public, I guess. And so you're going to have an online consultation. That's the form this is going to take. I still anticipate, though, we're going to get a lot of emails from folks, which is great. I just wonder who should folks email if they have a longer form comment they want to make. They can always email me or any member of council, I know, but we would also want to know where to forward an email to, so it ends up on the public record and in the hands of, well, compiled with the list of comments. Can you just give me a comment on that?
Yeah, we'll list it on the website, but all comments can be directed to my email, so, and I'll compile them.
Yeah, okay, very good. So if any member of council, I would encourage members of council, if you're receiving emails, when you respond, or if you can just copy them over to Josh anyway, to make sure he has that whole record. And I just, one other thing, I just would really want to echo the Vice Deputy Mayor's comments about bylaw enforcement. I really think so. The town is currently working with the police service, I think very productively on a shared services agreement. And one of those items in that discussion is bylaw enforcement. And I really think, town of Saugeen Shores is the single biggest funder of the Saugeen Shores Police. And it's a almost $5 million business now. And, the police do great work enforcing ride, and they do great work doing blitzes on seat belts and a lot of provincial priorities. But I think in return for our funding, we should get some town priorities focused on as well. We've got 25, 26 police officers. They should be doing targeted enforcement on our beaches, targeted enforcement across the board on our bylaw. These are important to the community. That should be one of the great values of having a local police service, is having that kind of service available to enforce things that are priorities to the community. So I think for me, that's a very high priority in our shared services discussions. And I think that the beaches have to be a target. Whatever we end up with here, there's still going to be things you can do and can't do in one place or another on the beach. And we are going to need the public to comply. That's voluntarily, and hopefully we'll get lots of compliance. But we also need an enforcement arm, and we need to have our bylaw enforcement officer and our police service working together to get that enforcement together. And I would also echo the Vice Deputy Mayor in the note that dog owners do need to step up their act a little bit, because I'm just coming out this spring, I see a lot of piles of dog poop in bags piled across our parks. I was in a baseball field this spring, and there was a whole pile of dog poop in bags in one of the dugouts. It was awful. And not long ago, the cenotaph was full of it, right? This shouldn't be. And I hear from folks that, well, there's no garbage cans. Well, it's still your response. Just because there isn't a garbage can immediately at hand does not mean you can litter in our community. So you must take responsibility. And if we want our dog owners and our dogs to have a great quality of life in this community, but we also need all of those folks to have respect for the community. And if we're going to expand these services and expand these opportunities, we really need dog owners to take care of these spaces. So I hope that message gets out to folks and that they take that to heart. So with all that, you've heard the Councillor Divinsky, another comment?
Just in voting on the recommendation, Bud Halpin has emailed me and said because he can't be seen, if it could be done verbally for the rest of the meeting for Bud.
So Councillor Halpin can just speak his vote. We'll call the vote, and Councillor Halpin, I'll just wait for you to speak your vote on the coming resolutions. Can you hear me? Is that okay?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so on this resolution, then you've heard it's not a resolution, it's just a recommendation, but you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor.
In favor.
Okay, that's carried. Thank you. So now we are on to 8.7, communications and petitions for information. There are 12 items there. I'll ask members if you have any of those that you'd like to speak to or deal with in any other way. The deputy mayor.
Item 12 on the list relates to, it's a Town of Essex resolution related to municipalities retaining surplus proceeds from tax sales. Is this something that we would appreciate getting behind? Are we giving up anything? I don't know how many tax sales we have in a year, but is this something that would be important for us to at least take a look at?
And Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure of the exact dollar amount. I don't think it would be large. But it certainly wouldn't hurt to have it in place in case there is a sale where there is a large surplus. You never know when that may come up.
Well, could we then just ask for a little guidance at a future meeting related to this specific topic? To make sure that our voice is heard, so that if something's happening in our community, we hang on to whatever we can hang on to from the sale of property. Thank you.
Just for clarification on the question, you're wanting a report on what our past history is in terms of what the value would be, or you would like to endorse the resolution from Essex?
I don't think we need a report with a lot of information, so I'm not asking for a lot of research. I just want to make sure that it's in our best interest to do this. So, the resolution is there. And I guess I'm just looking for some advice from people who know more about it than I do.
And so maybe the director could bring back this resolution with some editorial from staff on what our own position ought to be on it. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, I can bring back a report, but just to clarify, there would be no negative side. There would be potential revenue, just a question of how much revenue. But we can bring a report back on that if council wishes.
Do you have if council wants to consider a resolution to endorse, we can do that. Do you want to make that motion, Deputy Mayor?
I will make that motion.
The Deputy Mayor moves to endorse the resolution from Essex. Is there a seconder for that? Seconder by Councilor Grace. Any other comments? Don't see any. All in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Okay, thank you. Any other comments on any of these? Councilor Stack.
Yeah, I just had a question. It relates to something I raised a couple of weeks ago now about the police services board. Really, and I'm not sure who can answer this, but I had asked about the statistics. I think the Hexagon report on their annual report on findings. I'm just not sure if anyone knows if there's been a decision whether that can be made public.
We'll turn it over to the Deputy Mayor. She may have more information on that.
I don't have a specific answer for you, Councilor Stack, but I would invite any member of council who's interested in the police services. Our meetings are once a month, and there is a big chunk of the agenda is the chief's report, and it often goes far beyond what was on the 2 sentences that were in the highlights. Our next meeting is May the 17th, I believe. And you can come in person if you'd like over at the police department, or you can Zoom in, and certainly they're open to the public. And I think it would be, if you're able to, it would be very educational to listen to the chief's report, because it gives you much greater detail. Thank you.
I'd also note too, you can always email the chief. The chief's really good at giving information. So if any member has any question about police issues, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Are there further questions on any of these, or if not, then we'll move on.
Well, Councillor Halpin had one.
Sorry, Councillor Halpin, I saw your hand there and I forgot. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. We had the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority reporting to us today, doing a delegation, and I just want to point out that for the public, that our watershed, item 5 on that list, did get a pretty good report card. So, it takes money to run these organizations, but people care about the environment, and it's good news to hear that we have a pretty healthy report on our watershed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? If not, that brings us to the end of committee of the whole. So we do go on to statements. Yeah, we don't have anything else. So statements by members, and we'll start with the deputy mayor.
Thank you. And through you, I have two things. One is following up about the police department. During police week on the Thursday, so I believe it's May the 18th, from 3 to 6 o'clock, there's going to be a bit of an open house over at the police department. And some, the theme of police week is about community partnerships and interactions. And so Crime Stoppers and Community Watch and a number of different groups that have some connection to the police will be there. There'll be a barbecue. There'll be some fun stuff for kids. And there will also be Doug Lyons will have a display about the history of the police department. And can't guarantee that Riker will be there, but the invitation has gone out to Riker, but he may be on vacation that week, so might not be there. My second thing is last Thursday I had the pleasure and really enjoyed being with the grade 4 class from Saugeen Central School, Mrs. Spatzel's class. They had invited us to come out to help out with cleanup day. And so I went out and spent about an hour, almost 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes with grade 4 kids. We walked the neighborhood around their school and just a couple of observations. It's interesting, the bags of dog poo got mentioned. I think there were 4 adults with the grade 4 class. Whenever they encountered a bag of dog poo, none of them wanted to pick it up. So an adult picked it up. What they did pick up mostly though were cigarette butts. I don't think any child or adult took one step without bending over to pick up a cigarette butt on the ground. They also picked up Halloween decorations, Christmas decorations, a lot of construction waste. The kids were talking the whole time about what they were seeing on the ground. Oh, and they found some beer cans empty, and one of them actually knew that they were worth money, so they didn't want to put them in the garbage. So these are smart kids. What was interesting also to me was one little boy at one point said that someday he was going to be the mayor. So you're on notice, Mayor Charbonneau. And one of the things he was going to do as mayor was really go after the people for throwing the cigarette butts on the ground. So they were really cognizant of that. They also were really fascinated with the ditches with the big pipes. And, put on the spot, the public works people, you guys have much better answers than me, but they wanted to know where those pipes went and how it all worked. And so I did my best grade 4 definition of under the ground infrastructure and how it all fit together. And they were just fascinated that there was all this stuff underneath the ground that related to the way that their town worked. It's a very enjoyable experience. Thank you.
Thank you. The vice deputy mayor.
Mr. Mayor, just a congratulatory note, the under 11 boys, tier 3 hockey team were provincial champions. And a few weeks ago, and they defeated West Lorne 4-1. It was an excellent hockey game, and congratulations, Scott Clark, Adam Schuler, the coaches, and Martin Tell, and the trainer Doug Minaj. And that's not an easy thing to do. Winning a provincial championship, I coached for a lot of years, and it's not easy winning the big trophy. And great sportsmanship. Parents, coaches, trainers, managers all deserve a big word of thanks and congratulations. So yeah, the under 11 tier 3 champions, boys. So way to go.
Very good. Councillor Mayette.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if, with your permission, I request that you indulge me for a moment to speak about some social media and some things that were going on in our community this past week regarding a piece of correspondence that apparently I issued late last year, almost 6 months ago. I suppose as a result of that correspondence, unbeknownst to me, there were 3 complaints made to the Integrity Commissioner. I almost forgot that I wrote it, honestly, until it was brought to our attention. I think that most councillors got some sort of notification, or if they were on, the Beach Preserver's website, it was pretty blatant there. I was not contacted by the Integrity Commissioner at all. to notify me that there was complaints raised against me, but apparently there were. So with your permission, I would like to read the notice that I got, the letter I got today from the Integrity Commissioner. So it says, Councillor Maya, complaints 2201, 2202, and 2203. I guess they were the first three for Saugeen Shores. Aaron Blaze is the Integrity Commissioner for the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores, the town. We understand that a number of public comments have been made concerning a complaint filed against you pursuant to the town's code of conduct bylaw 59/2017, the code. We are writing to advise you that 3 complaints were filed with our office, which alleged you had contravened various provisions of the town's code, collectively the complaints. The complaints dated November 25th, November 28th, and 29th, 2022. The code was recently repealed and replaced with the Code of Conduct for Members of Councils and Local Boards pursuant to Resolution 2022-194 on December 12th. Code of Conduct for Members of Council and Local Boards. However, as the complaints were submitted to our office prior to the passage of the Code of Conduct for councils and local boards, our jurisdiction with respect to the complaints fell under the code. The complaints. The alleged complaints allege that you contravened various provisions of the code in relation to your engagement with members of the public. In particular, one complaint raised allegations with respect to an email sent on November 15th of the email. And it reads as such. I was hoping that you'd run for council, but that takes courage. You didn't. I did. I won. I won based on a clear message of support for the direction council has taken on the CCV, which is the Cedar Crescent Village, and other waterfront improvement issues. Meanwhile, you continue to issue rants from behind your computer screen like a coward. As the saying goes, there are those that can and those that can't, so they teach. Then hide home and spout blame to those that do. Honestly, I'll leave the name out. I don't give a damn what you think. My electorate has given me a clear mandate. This was shortly after the election, and this was in response to a correspondence that I had received from this individual. And this correspondence was not shared in any way with, and I'm not going to share it because it was a correspondence between me and an individual, and I don't share those types of correspondence without permission. When asked the complaint on several occasions to supply us with the complete email, this goes back to the letter. When asked on several occasions to supply us with a complete chain of email and other relevant communications with you, no additional information was provided. We accordingly advised the complainant that we would proceed to make a determination on the entirety record that had been submitted. So the role of the Integrity Commissioner. The Integrity Commissioner, we are a neutral, impartial, objective statutory officer. We exercise our functions independently pursuant to Part 5.1 of the Municipal Act 2001, the code, and any complaint procedure in accordance with the principles of natural justice. Our appointment as the Integrity Commissioner for the town assigned to us functions set out in section 223.3-1 of the Municipal Act, which includes an investigative function with respect to the application of the code of members of council. While we have an obligation to consider any complaint that is filed properly with our office, we do not have a duty to investigate every complaint. And it quotes a legal precedent in that matter. Next paragraph, summary of dismissal of complaints. We thoroughly considered and reviewed each complaint, and all materials referred to therein. We received each complaint recognizing that they may be filed following the recent municipal election on October 24th, 2022, and a contentious matter involving the Cedar Crescent Village, Port Elgin, was engaged as significant public interest, or has engendered significant public interest. We consider the allegations contained in each complaint with respect to the limited evidentiary record provided to us. With respect to one complaint noted above related to the email, as noted, we requested the full communications between the persons involved so that we could appreciate the context in which the email was delivered. Those full communication records, despite several requests, were not provided to us. While we do not condone the language contained in the email, as we found it to be discourteous, we ultimately determined that the allegation did not merit our full investigation and reporting to the council. Likewise, we found that the allegations and correspondence appended to the other 2 complaints also did not merit a full investigation, as we determined that they did not disclose reasonable and probable grounds to believe that there had been a contravention of the code that warranted a full investigation and reporting and at public expense. Accordingly, pursuant to section 18 of the code, we found that there was insufficient grounds to proceed with an investigation into the complaints. We accordingly advised each of the complainants on a confidential basis of our determination on February the 23rd, and that we would be closing our files. We did not provide notice to you, as you had never been given notice of the filing of the original complaints. This was in accordance with our standard practice to provide notice to a respondent member only when we elect to proceed with the conduct investigation and provide an opportunity for the member to respond to the allegations set out in the complaint. We are sharing our determination with you as we understand that one or more of the complainants has publicly referenced our summary dismissals, notwithstanding that our notice was provided to them on a confidential basis. Should you have any questions concerning our inquiry process or our determinations in respect of the complaints, you are free to contact us at any time. Sincerely, Megan Cowan, LLP, Aird M. Bearleys. So that was the letter that I received today, which, as I stated earlier, up until a couple of days ago, I did not know that there was even a complaint filed against me, or in this case, 3. That makes, I think, 6 since I've been on council, all of which that I have been exonerated on. I'm not particularly proud of the language that I used or the tone that I used in that email, and quite frankly, I could sit here today and 6 months later and say that I regret it. And I would also like to say that the quoting of Bernard Shaw in the use of the quote that alleges those that do, and that is, if that would take an offense by anybody, particularly teachers, and particularly those in attendance or members of our esteemed council here, then I sincerely apologize if there was any malice taken. I certainly did intend it that way. It was strictly for the individual who I was responding to, and respond to a letter that was infamous. But anyway, I would just like to conclude by saying that I regret what I did. I apologize to anybody who may have been offended, and I will do my best to not make a habit of this in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. Good things that have happened over the last few weeks. On Saturday in the rain, I participated in the Southampton Residents Association beach cleanup, and many thanks to the folks that came out that day. As with your experience, Deputy Mayor, we found a lot of cigarette butts. And a number of other things that's always interesting doing a beach cleanup. But thanks to town staff for facilitating that cleanup. Just one thing about the follow-up about the butt holders, the cigarette butts, one of the folks who was with me on the cleanup wondered if we could have periodically placed or sporadically placed cigarette butt holders on the beach. And we used to do something like that, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if that's something we could do. I noticed them when the places I found them were by benches on the, you could see people have been sitting on the boardwalks, especially where there's like a little ledge now formed in the sand, and a lot of butts around there. So, folks, come on, if you're going to do that, please take them with you. Don't put them on the beach. The other event that I participated in was also on Saturday, and that was the Southampton Arts Center Gala and Fundraiser, which was a fantastic event. A lot of hard work by all of the folks involved in the Arts Center, and it was a great fundraiser. I think it was sold out. It was such a nice evening and wonderful to see all of the work that our participating artists share, and all of the folks from the community who donated. items and donated money to support that event. And it's such a treasure to have the Southampton Arts Center in our community. So I look forward to other events like that.
Thank you, Councilor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. Councillor Grace alluded to the wet Saturday. Also working in the wet Saturday was the Southampton Rotary members as they had their Shred and Go annual event. And it was first time I used it. And I gotta tell you, I got rid of things that date back to 2005. And there were a lot of people there. I think they had 276 cars go through. And people got rid of a lot of material, and it was done safely. And it was done in the rain. So I thank the Southampton Rotary Club members for sticking it out. Every one of them had a smile on their face, so that was great. Go back a couple of weeks, the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks officially ended their season with their year-end banquet. I will not attempt to tell you the winners because I'll leave someone out. So let's just say that everybody was recognized for the great entertainment they provide throughout the winter months. And I might add, it was one of the best turnouts yet for the banquet and it's free. And a lot of fans showed up as well. So that was good to see. Two good things to see in my life. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment that it's springtime. People are getting their bikes out and our rail trail and trails are there ready to use. Just a reminder to people that you can buy a membership to the rail trail. I'm on that committee and I wasn't even aware till I got on that committee. So I just encourage people, if you like the rail trail and our other trails and wish to support it, please buy a membership. Go to the rail trail website and it's a perfect thing to buy. It's also a perfect gift for someone. So just acknowledge the rail trail and all the good work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Stack.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to reflect briefly on some of the emails and feedback we've had from our constituents over the last week. And so I thought I was going to take just a moment to reflect on how I approach interactions with our constituents. And I thought I would use it by reflecting on a personal experience on how I deal with constituents. And the example I use is when I ran for council, I started a public facing Facebook page. And I get feedback and emails or Facebook messages on that are not something you expect on a council website. It's clearly meant for public engagement. And I think about our obligation to be respectful and courteous. And I try my level best, and that's the way I engage with our entire constituents. But I just wanted to share that, reflecting on sort of the feedback we've had from the last week, I take it very seriously, again, doing my level best to be respectful and courteous to all correspondents, but I'll speak to my personal experience, we're human beings, and sometimes it's difficult when you get feedback and content that's difficult, and I, do my best, and I'm always respectful and always courteous regardless of the content that comes through, and I recognize that when you come into this, that's your obligation. And I, continue to make that commitment to the constituents, which is recognizing, at least in my view, I'll speak to my experience. Sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes you're caught on a bad day. So just wanted to reflect that, yes, certainly I believe we have an obligation to always be as respectful and courteous and thoughtful as we can in our responses. But the odd time, perhaps we aren't using the best language, and I'll say, I will do my best to ensure I don't. But when I reflect on the experiences I've had in some of the public facing correspondence I have, there are times where I know if I wasn't if I was not acting as a counselor, the feedback I give to the comments would be very different. And I use that example just again for everyone to reflect that we are not impervious to mistakes. Certainly I am not. The feedback I've had from our constituents has given me a lot of time to think and pause and ensure that I'm thoughtful in my responses, but just wanted to recognize that, there are times that we may not be perfect. We should try our best to be as close to perfect as we can be, but that sometimes it can be difficult. And, obviously I hope I continue to demonstrate respectful communication, but just recognize, this has really made me reflect on some of the opportunities for non-ideal language and just, making sure the community knows we try our best. Certainly I do, but, we can't always be.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think we'll just let it stand there. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Counselor Davinsky, second by Counselor Grace. All in favor? The committee stands adjourned and council will convene at 8:30. Hey, Mike, can we get you back there? We're still waiting for Counselor Mapp. I saw him take a phone call. I hear him talking on the phone there, so we may just proceed. He'll be back in when he gets the chance, I'm sure. We're good to go. Okay, so I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting, and the second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. I'll ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments, although I will just add the comment to the agenda that I have not become a fan of the Ripley Wolves. But I am wearing this jersey because I lost a bet with the mayor of Huron Kinloss, and I would note that next year it'll be him wearing a Winterhawks jersey. So we'll make sure that happens. Okay, so with that, we'll move on. We have no public meeting, so we're on to adoption of the minutes. And I have a resolution that council adopt the minutes of the special council meeting of April 5th, 2023, and council meetings of April 11, 2023, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of April 11, 2023, as presented. Is there a mover and second? Moved by the Vice Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Grace. Any questions or comments, to any of those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
In favor.
You, sorry, I'll wait for you next time, Councillor Halpin. All right, we're then on to reports of committee of the whole, and we have a few reports there. So the first one is committee of the whole report of April 11, 2023, and there's a resolution that the resolution for the municipality of North Perth concerning school bus stop arm cameras be endorsed by the town of Saugeen Shores, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, Attorney General Doug Downey, Minister of Education Stephen Lecce, MPP for Huron Bruce, the MPP for Huron Bruce, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried.
In favor.
Now we'll move on to the general government report of April 11, 2023, and there is a resolution that council received the 2023 major initiatives and highlights for Q1 update report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Stack, seconded by Grace. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, next is a community services, parks and recreation report. And I have a recommendation, or for me, a resolution that council support in principle the Port Elgin and North Shore Railroad proposal, and that council direct staff to consult with the public on the Port Elgin and North Shore Railroad proposal and return to council with results of that consultation as soon as possible. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Stack, seconded by Davinsky. Questions or comments of the resolution? Councillor Halpin and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. I'm really glad that they're doing this consultation with the public. I have received a few emails already just about the format of the way to vote and express your opinion. And it just seems to say that you're, like, for one thing, they did a good job. They put out 140 pages for people to read. I think a summary would have been, should have been included in that. And also it says, do you want the train or you don't? It doesn't really mention the train and the village. So I have a few concerns about the wording of it. And I'm bringing that up because I have had emails from people about the wording of the survey. Thank you.
Maybe there are other comments, and maybe the Director of Community Services could address those issues.
Thank you, Councillor Halpin, and through you, Mr. Mayor. We'll review that wording of the proposal tomorrow with our comms team and get back to council on that. And if any revisions are required, then we'll issue those.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Halpin. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, I was actually going to say pretty much the exact same thing that Councillor Halpin said. So appreciate the response. I also wanted to request that there is the way that it is right now, and I really hope that it gets changed because I think it needs more, but there's a place for comments, and I would like to make sure that members of council receive all of the comments, whether or not we choose to read them, I guess is our own personal thing, but I believe we should all receive all of the comments. And the emails that we've been receiving, as we did earlier with the situation with the dog beach idea, where should we make sure we forward any emails we get to have them become part of the record? Thank you.
That's a good question. The director.
Thank you for the question and comments, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Any additional comments can be forwarded to myself through the survey or regarding the survey. And also just a point of clarification is that all of the comments that are received in that provided box will be an attachment to the staff report that will be brought forward.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments about this resolution? Seeing none, then all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, then we're on to reports of municipal officers and committees, and let's see here, we have 3 reports there. And the first one is a striking committee report on proposed procedural bylaw amendments. And there is a resolution that proposed procedural bylaw amendments be endorsed by the striking committee as endorsed by the striking committee be presented to council for consideration. That's that can't be right. This is council and we are considering it. Right?
Through you, Mayor Charbonneau, in accordance with the notice requirements for a procedural bylaw, we are first of all simply providing notice that at the next council meeting, these amendments are going to be considered for adoption.
Okay, so everyone's clear, so I'm clear, but probably all the rest of you understood this, but so what's happening is we're receiving this essentially tonight, putting it in the public realm, and then at a future council meeting, we'll consider it formally for adoption, correct? Okay. So is there a mover and seconder for that resolution? Moved by Grace, seconded by staff. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor?
In favor.
That's carried. Second one is a staff report on wheel loader fleet award, and there's a resolution that council approved the purchase of 1 new wheel loader at a cost of $335,450 plus applicable HST from Wajax Equipment, and that council allocate $18,970 from development charges to fund the budget shortfall. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Stack. Questions or comments? Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to staff, who wants to answer this one, but are we seeing, is this the trend? I know it's only 5%, I guess, 5% over, but are we seeing that a lot, strides with our early tenders for 2023? This is, I know, one of the first ones, but are we seeing that? Do you think since COVID's happened and overpricing, what are you seeing so far?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This one definitely was over budget a little bit, but as you can see, some of the funding has been is covered by the reallocation because our sidewalk unit was under, both sidewalk units were under as well. So I think it depends on the timing, the type of equipment. Our focus right now too is on the lead time in which we can receive this equipment. So maybe it wasn't a terrible surprise of this one being over. But I think what's also very useful is that we actually got a demo, so our operators were able to get their hands on the piece of equipment and use it. So we're happy with the price. We're happy with the options that came with it. And I think our fleet committee led by Jess Rogers, I also know that they're putting a lot of work into making sure that we are providing accurate budget forecasts for pieces of equipment. So.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. It's Lamont Sports Park, a little bit off topic, but it closes that tender in a couple of weeks for phase 2. Yeah, I think the Lamont Sports Park should be interesting to see what that'll give us a good indication on that $4 million price tag, whatever it is, to see how the tender prices come back at. So just wonder if you've seen any early trends. We've answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further comments about this resolution? Seeing none, then all in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Okay, then we're on to the third one, which is a staff report on the update to OMERS bylaw 79, 2022, and there is a resolution the council adopt bylaw 30, 2023, to amend bylaw 599 and rescind bylaws 79, 2022. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by staff. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
In favor?
Okay. So now we are on to bylaws, and there are two bylaws for consideration there. Anybody wish to have either of those considered on their own? Don't see any request to do that. So I have a resolution of the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 24th day of April, 2023. 1/29/2023 being a bylaw to authorize the transfer of lands known as Part 1 on 3R 9774, Saugeen Shores being part of PIN 3324700093 to the abutting landowners, and 2/30/2023 being a bylaw to change the normal retirement age under the OMERS primary pension plan and the retirement compensation arrangement for the OMERS primary pension plan in respect of the employees of the corporation of the town of Saugeen Shores identified herein. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by the deputy mayor. Questions or comments? Seeing, hearing none, then all in favor?
In favor?
Okay, and then we have a closed to public meeting. So I have a resolution, the council move into a closed to public session to discuss matters in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001, section 2392 as follows. B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by Stack. All in favor?
In favor?
That's carried. Council will now move into a closed public session. Okay, so I have a resolution that council arise from closed public session and resume the regular council meeting as a mover and seconder. Moved by Sack, seconded by Davinsky. All in favor? It's carried. And so we're rising, and I will report that council adopted the close to public minutes of April 5th and April 11th, 2023. And I'll report the council gave direction to staff on a personal matter about an identifiable individual and negotiations relative to a position agreement. And so with that, I have a resolution that bylaw 31, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 24th day of April, 2023, as a remover and seconder. Myatt and the deputy mayor. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, carried. And with that, the final resolution is that this regular council meeting of April 24th, 2023 hereby adjourns at 9:13 PM. Mover and seconder. We'll take Halpin and Stack. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.